SUVs aren't just family haulers anymore. They've evolved into beasts of engineering, blending raw power, luxury, and off-road dominance in ways that challenge imagination. Today, we're stepping into a world where machines breathe personality, where tires crunch gravel like it's music, and where every mile writes a story. Let's dive into the top 7 most extreme SUVs, not through cold specs, but through the lens of shared adventures, laughs, and those unforgettable "did that just happen" moments. 1. Mercedes-Benz G-Class 4x4 Superscript 2, the ground shaker. Imagine I'm standing beside the roaring beast, paint glistening under a harsh sun, and I ask you with a grin, can you feel the ground tremble when this SUV lurches forward? This one doesn't whisper. It barks, it growls, it refuses suburbia's polite manners. Inside, leather hugs you like an old friend's embrace, while gauges flicker with a promise of mischief. Picture the driver, fingers light on a thick steering wheel, eyes bright with the kind of joy that knows curves are invitations. We share a laugh, trade a glance that says yes, yes, we will take that ridge, and the world compresses to the small cathedral of metal and rubber around us. The passengers become conspirators, snacks become supplies, playlists become anthems for the tiny rebellions we stage against ordinary days. You ask me if I'm nervous, and I shrug, because the vehicle's confidence is contagious. We remember, we grin, we go again. 2. Jeep Wrangler Rubicon 392, the Mud Warrior. Close your eyes and picture mud-splattered fenders, a grin stretching across the driver's face, and a radio playing something too loud for polite society. This SUV is the friend who drags you out of your comfort zone and into the kind of adventure your future self will thank you for. It chews up terrain like it's breakfast, and when it climbs, it does so with the confident swagger of someone who has paid attention to their lessons. We joke, we shout over wind and laughter, and we exchange small, human memories that become our shorthand for bravery. The time we almost turned back, the time we didn't. There's humility welded into every scratch and panel dent, an honest ledger of risks taken and survived. We compare scars like badges, trade repair tips like folklore, and always choose the route that promises at least one questionable turn. When dusk settles, the headlights carve sentences into the dark, and we tell stories louder than the engine. We remember, we grin, we go again. 3. Land Rover Defender V8, the Trail Whisperer. A gentle knock on the door, a wink, and the question, ready to outrun routine? This SUV isn't about disguises. It wears its capabilities with casual charm. The cabin becomes a small theater of stories, a scratchy map remembered from childhood, a playlist curated for 2 hours of dramatic turns, small arguments about who left the trailhead sign up incomplete. Yet every disagreement melts into focus when the road tilts and the suspension sings. We talk softer while climbing rocks, as if the vehicle's heavy breathing demands respect. Someone reminds us to check tire pressure like it's a bedtime ritual. Someone else hums a ridiculous tune to tame the nerves. The windows catch birds and branches like film frames in a personal documentary, and the machine hums its accompaniment. At the summit, we step out, knees wobble a little, and there's a silence dense with accomplishment. We drink water, swap granola bars, and take a photo that doesn't capture half the story. We remember, we grin, we go again. 4. Toyota Land Cruiser 300 Series, the Horizon Chaser. Pull the latches, feel the cold metal, and watch the horizon rearrange itself around you. This SUV navigates space like an artist rearranges a canvas, bold strokes and sudden decisions that somehow make sense when made in a hurry. We share tea at dusk, and the car becomes the confessional booth where plans drink courage. There are songs hummed off key, maps misread, and then brilliantly corrected. There are hands finding hands over the center console as the sun dips low. Tires whisper secrets to gravel. The rearview mirror frames a moment that will be retold differently by each passenger later that week. We speculate wildly about the locals we meet and invent histories for stray dogs who follow us for 12 kilometers. The vehicle forgives poor choices with torque and traction, and it insists on dignity in descent. We descend with stories stacked like firewood, ready for a night of laughter and small revelations. We remember, we grin, we go again. 5. Lamborghini Urus Performante, the city escape artist. Imagine the city dissolving into strips of asphalt and dirt, the dashboard lit like a small constellation, and someone beside you offering a ridiculous theory about the meaning of headlights. This SUV changes how stories begin. Mundane errands turn into contested epics, and familiar faces become co-conspirators. It rolls with an almost theatrical confidence that reassures even when the path gets narrow. We exchange stories mid-ride, interrupted by the occasional need to check a map or reroute around a stubborn cow, and each detour becomes an anecdote stored for the next gathering. The suspension absorbs our awkward silences and amplifies our laughter. At one point, a passenger exclaims at the view and another pretends to be offended by the lack of proper signage. We pretend to be offended and then forget why. The machine is a generous stage director, cueing moments that will later be edited into conversations at dinners. We return with dust on shoes and triumph in our hearts. We remember, we grin, we go again. 6. Rolls-Royce Cullinan Black Badge, the Night Voyager. There's a particular hush that descends when night falls and this SUV's lamps carve tunnels through blackness. In that hush, conversations get honest because the dark softens the edges of ego. Jokes become warmer, promises lighter and somehow more true. The ride becomes a kilometer-long living room where strangers can become friends and friends can become legends in their own short stories. We slow to appreciate small lights on distant hills, the flicker of a farmhouse, the patience of stars indifferent to our plans. Someone tells a story that stretches the vehicle's steel and upholstery into the fabric of a memory. The kind people retell with dramatic pauses and hand gestures. Tires sing on wet asphalt, and the engine's low hum matches the rhythm of our hearts. We arrive at a viewpoint and stand in the doorframe like characters posed by a photographer who only shoots candid moments. We breathe there, small and loud, and the night receives us without judgment. We remember, we grin, we go again. 7. Tesla Model X Plaid, the Storyteller's SUV. A hand brushes the dash, a laugh escapes, and we both admit we will remember this ride differently. And that is the point. This SUV makes room for multiple truths. The thrill-seeker's version, the sentimentalist's retelling, and the practical checklist tucked in a glove compartment. Each has its moment. We narrate the drive like a shared screenplay, improvising lines, swapping glances that mean more than words. When the trail ends, we step out with dust in our hair and stories threaded into the cloth of our jackets. Someone finds a new habit to brag about. Someone else vows to return with marginally better snacks. The vehicle takes its place in our story as a character. Stern when needed, exuberant when coaxed, patient when asked to wait. We load gear carefully, as if handling relics, and shut the doors with the ritual finality of a concluded chapter. We promise nothing formal, but we know the invitation exists. Another sunrise, another ridge, another defiance of the ordinary. We remember, we grin, we go again. And that's for today's video. If you enjoyed it, don't forget to hit that like button, subscribe if you haven't already, and turn on the notification bell so you never miss an upload. Got thoughts, questions, or video ideas? Drop them down in the comments. I read every single one,